B2B marketing, typically the challenge is always about, because it's a long sales cycle. So in a long sales cycle, there are multiple stakeholders involved, right? So it's not about one person making that decision. It usually starts off with what we call a digital investigator. So somebody who is actually assigned the job of, can you go and research about this first, right? We have this pain point, we have these problems, and is there a better solution? And because that digital investigator then is tasked to do that, it usually starts off with this person. Perhaps these days we talk about the fastest way is basically using Google to search, right, for information. And then we'll look for information. He will get some kind of data, and then he presents it back to the stakeholders.
Yeah, so the interesting point here is this happened at the client side. I think the marketing need to realize that there are people doing this kind of research. We can reach them using multiple platforms, digitally, right? But they first need to understand that they actually have people in needs of their products or services and all that. So they need to reach them.
Yeah, so I think you raised a good point by saying that how does marketers even get to an awareness that there could be such a person commissioned, right, to do such a research work? So typically how we actually start off with a conversation with some clients, we ask, do you know who is your ideal customer, right? And then if the customers have raised a few names and say, yeah, these are accounts or these are the names, then we say that, hey, have you actually checked out with this customer? What was their initial buying trigger, right, that led them to having this conversation with your sales, right? And typically when we ask that question, usually they won't be able to give us answer because the marketing would not be so in-depth into talking to the sales and say that, hey, sales team, how did this customer find us? So usually when we ask the first few questions and say, when you qualify some of these what we call organic leads or inbound leads that comes through the door, perhaps not even by paid channels, they come through the door and then they ring you up and say that, can we set an appointment for this consult, right? And typically, the sales will be just too busy trying to qualify a lead, but they forget to ask the question and say, what bring you to us today? Right?
In fact, most of the company marketing don't talk to sales.
Oh no.
Because when we ask this and then they don't even have that awareness that there could be this person who would be tasked to do this research and subsequently pass some of this research data back to certain stakeholders and say that, okay, let's reach out. Because usually the point where the sales actually gets a call, it's where there would be some stakeholders behind the scene would have already agreed and aligned and say, let's reach out to these companies and let's find out more. So I think it's a good point that you mentioned about saying that perhaps most marketers don't even understand that there could be this journey. And behind this journey, like you mentioned, digital can touch these people, right? But we have to then find out and say that who is that ideal customer that in your list of accounts, right? Who could be the first person who have started that research? So that typically for B2B is a challenge because marketers are not aware of the entire journey. Number two is whether they even have this ideal customer profile, what we'll call a buyer persona. Because behind the scene of the buyer persona, who is that person who could be doing the digital investigation, or could be the person who is a project sponsor, or the person who could be coming together, forming the team, and eventually be the influencers. You talk about legal, you talk about procurement. So there's so many stakeholders, but usually most marketing feels that B2B is just straightforward. And then they click on those links and they realize that, hey, this company actually solves exactly my pain point.